Hello and welcome back. This is the next video in the certification called Sustainability Climate Risk or SCR. This video would have chapters from 36 to 40 of SCR certification. This is the presentation outline. Let's study them one by one. So the very first topic is to identify carbon risk. You need to assess carbon risk at the sectoral level. There are three parameters through which it can be done. The first is through carbon intensity. In this, the largest greenhouse gas emissions here, which would have the greatest risk. The second is the physical asset lifespan. Wherever there is higher lifespan, it would have greater risk. EBIT or earnings before income tax. So if there is low EBIT, sector would face greater risk just because if climate risk would have to be there, then it won't be able to resist it. The second topic is assessing exposure of carbon risk at company level. So it would depend on the company's uniqueness. How different is the company from other companies and what are its level of risk. Also, how the company is positioning itself with respect to sustainability and risk management would also be one of the parameters. ESG analysis would help the company in assessing its exposure of climate risk. But there are other considerations as well. The first is the demand. So as a company, whether they can increase the price with respect to increase in carbon prices, and whether the customer would still be willing to buy the product or would leave the product. So that is what is elastic or inelastic demand. The second is time boundaries, which is inherent in various metrics. Now the next topic is capital stack. So it is sum total of all of the capital invested in physical asset or company. In this, principal type is debt, which is loans and bonds, and the next is equity. Equity, as you can see, are of two types. So it can be based on stocks or it could be based on private equity. It can be through company level or it could be through asset level. Ownership is through direct sales or it could be through funds. Intermediaries are retail investors, which are individuals, and institutional investors. Most of these equity are provided by banks, which are underwriters, or it could be asset managers for private equity. For debt, which is bonds, the different type of capital are debt capital markets, private placement, and project-specific bond. It could be through company level, which is through corporate bonds, or asset level. This is a lending type of an investment, that is, you are holding some bonds and you would be given some fixed amount every year or after the expiry of that bond. This could be through different intermediaries, which could be institutional as well as retail investors. The service providers are still the same, banks as well as asset managers. Or you could have debt in the form of loans, which is corporate loans and project-based loans. It could be company level, which is corporate loans, and asset level, which is usually the project finance loans. Lending is the method through which it can be done, or it could be through lending syndicate, which would have multiple lenders or banks. Usually the intermediary is the banks, and they are also the service providers. This capital stack is ranked as per this. So as you can see, common stock, which is equity, would have the lowest structure seniority, capital structure seniority, and as you move up, which is preferred stock, would have higher than the common stock. And similarly, if you go up in the chain, then you would find that senior secured loan would have the highest customer capital structure seniority, and so is the risk. So for the equity, there is the highest risk, and for senior secured loan it is the lowest, just because that has higher stack than just because it gets repaid first and it carries low risk and return. Now this is the framework for assessing carbon risk. As you can see, there are three parameters: assess exposure, evaluate risk, and manage risk. There are different carbon risk factors. This is based on transition risk, so they have taken types of transition risk, which are policy and legal factors, technology factors, market and economic factors, reputational factors. Now, the exposure to carbon risk is studied based on the physical assets as well as their location. Company would study the carbon risk, and then it would indulge underwriters or originators for it. Underwriters or originators would convert it into financial asset, which could be in the form of equity, loans, and bonds that we studied just in the last slide. But the underwriter needs to give a financial analysis of that, so they would do a test and evaluation for that. First, they could also screen it, and if it is low exposure, then they can stop it, or if it is high, then they would go for the test and evaluation. Now, these loans, bonds, and equity are then given to lenders and investors who have their own financial portfolios. These lenders and investors would do a portfolio test to determine whether they want to accept it or not. If it is low, they can stop it, but if it is high, these are the two parameters that is given in management approach. The first is to avoid the risk, that is avoid the sector or the security, or you can divest, that is you can sell the sales. The second approach is to manage the risk, which is to risk disclosure. You can disclose the risk and you can manage it. Or you could have a sectoral policies that in this sectors you would have this, but in this high risk you would accept high risk, and in some other sectors you would accept lower risk. You could also go for a due diligence kind of a thing, in which risk pricing would be there, and you could charge a risk premium. Another method is diversification, in which you can diversify the risk to various companies, so that you can lessen the risk amount. Also, engagement with these companies would be beneficial for lenders as well as investors. Now, so as per TCFD, there are four categories. The first is governance. So these are the various steps that you need to take. The first in governance, the first step is to see whether the board has oversight, and if it is defined and agreed. If it is not, then a training needs to be given to higher management, and you need to link it to strategy as well as management. The second is to, if they have been defined, then the views and benefits needs to be considered. If they are not, then you need to incorporate climate change into investment, and when it is done, policy is being developed which needs to be made public. If there is not a climate policy, you need to develop it. You need to have an internal role for integrating climate change, and if you don't have that, you need to define the roles and responsibilities for it. Also, the process for assessing and managing risk should be clearly articulated or defined. If it is not, then you need to have internal resources, asset managers, and processes defined. The last is to know the management of this climate change, how it will be reported, and if you have not have that, if you don't have that, then you need to agree with TCFD recommendations. They have some guidelines on that. The second is based on strategy. So the board needs to understand what are climate risks. If they don't understand it, then they need briefing as well as training. The second is the board needs to be made aware of investment opportunities. If they are not aware, there needs to be briefed and give training. The third is there needs to be some processes through which risk and opportunities could be assessed. If they are not, that you need to have a evaluation process. Climate risk and opportunity needs to be incorporated into the investment strategy. If they are not, then you need to review your asset allocation based on the risk element. Also, the Paris Agreement's thesis, which is to have less than 2 degrees centigrade. If the portfolio is not resilient to that, then you need to seek analysis from relevant authorities or subject matter experts. Then lastly, you need to improve your resilience of the portfolio. And if you are not able to do that, then you need to discuss the results and agree which are the actions you would take to implement it. Similarly, for risk management, you can see that data sources needs to be evaluated for climate-related risk. If they are not, then it needs to be requested to the relevant parties. Fund managers need to report on climate-related risk. If they can't, then managers need to follow the TCFD guidelines. Fund managers need to know about the most at-risk assets in the portfolio. If they can't, then they need to seek analysis as well as briefing on them. The first thing, whenever risk is there, you need to mitigate it. If you can't do that, then you need to develop a program of action. The second thing is you need to have an oversight committee. You can incorporate it into a risk committee or a risk management. Lastly, whether the risk management can be assessed along with other investments risk, and for that you would have an action plan. The next is metrics. So there should be some agreeable metrics. If you don't have, then you can seek advice from the subject matter experts. The metrics needs to be included in public disclosure. If they are not, then they should be reported as per TCFD recommendations. Metrics needs to relate to overall strategy. If they are not, then they need to be incorporated into climate metrics. Carbon footprint needs to be measured and disclosed. If they don't, then they need to undertake and disclose it. There needs to be a clear understanding of how footprinting would fit the model of climate-related risk. And if they can't do that, then they need to agree and disclose on the activities that fund will take. Lastly, climate-related goals or targets needs to be approved. And if they are not, then suitable targets and goals needs to be studied and they needs to be decided based on that. So what is ESG? So environmental, social, governance. These are the 3 pillars. They are divided into different themes and ESG areas. As you can see, for environment, the first is the climate change, which is based on climate mitigation, carbon emission, carbon footprint, etc. Second is the natural resources, which is based on water stress, biodiversity, etc. The third is pollution and waste, which is electronic waste, pollution due to some other emissions. Environment opportunities, which is investment in green tech or clean energies. The second pillar, which is social. As you can see, the first category in this is human capital. So you need to manage the labor and health and safety of those individuals. Product liability. So what are the various things that you need to take care of? Safety, quality, privacy, health, etc. Some of the stakeholders could oppose, and these are included in social ones, and hence it is called as controversial sourcing. Governance, corporate governance, which would include the board, the pay structure they have, the ownership, etc. Also the corporate behavior, which could be ethics, transparency, and corruption, etc. Now these are the different heads that they have created. The first is governance and culture. As you can see, it is like the same as in TCFD. So there needs to be a board oversight, there needs to be organization structure, there needs to be an organization culture. You need to attract and retain the employees. The second is about strategy, which gives us about the risk appetite, risk threshold, business, your formulation of business objectives, etc. The third is performance, which is based on identification of risk, assessment of risk, prioritization of risk, and a holistic view of the portfolio. The fourth is review and revision, which gives about the change management system. So you need to assess the change. You need to review whether you can incorporate it or not. So that is what is mentioned here. And lastly, which is information, communication, and reporting. So it would give some technology that you can use for creation of your reports, so that homogeneity can be maintained. These are the various ESG checklists. So as you can see, for governance, these are based on ESG related requirements. And you need to inform the board about the ESG related risk, the organization structure, operating structure, risk owners, what are the opportunities, etc. For strategy, you need to have a thread in which you could have a SWOT analysis, you could have a material assessment, you could have a risk management process that is aligned to your strategy, objectives, and risk appetite. For performance, as we have studied this, identification of risk, assessment and prioritization of risk, and implementation of risk responses. The fourth one is to review and revise ESG related risk. So if there is any change, you need to incorporate that and improve your ESG related risk system. And lastly, which is information technology, how do you want to communicate, and how it would help in internal decision making, etc. would be discussed here. So for directors, there would be some liability risks. So the thing is that as per TCFD, climate risk needs to have stress testing as well as scenario analysis. So they can be based on most likely scenario, or it could be based on internal analysis. This should not be the case, just because climate risk is not based on most likely scenario. Most of the scenarios are not emphasized till now. So this should not be there. Also, internal analysis is a misrepresentation. Reporting obligation. So as per law, you need to disclose material climate related risk. If you don't disclose it, then the director could be facing criminal offense. There could be some disclosure laws which could be forward looking. So if you do the climate risk, if you do the risk disclosure as in good faith, there won't be any issue. But if you are fraudulent and reckless then in your conduct, then there would be violation laws on you. The first problem that directors face is the silence and non-disclosure of risk. So companies which are operating in industries that are highly exposed to physical and/or transition risk associated with climate change usually do that. Some of the directors would fail to consider foreseeable risk, and which could lead into bigger problems. Also, cherry picking in disclosure is not an ethical way to do it. You need to present all the sides of the disclosures. Statement of opinion or belief. You can't give a qualitative data. You need to have quantitative one. If you don't have that, then it's not a good way to disclose risk, climate-related risk. These are the various examples of those risks. So as you can see, for physical risk, it could be due to extreme weather, which is acute, and it could be a constant thing like change in climate and landscape. So you could have a reduced revenue, or you could have a reduction in your OPEX, CAPEX, etc. Policy and legal risk. Governments can impose some policies on the company, and this would lead an increase of operation and litigation costs. Also, there could be stranded asset as per government policy, which could lead into forced capital depreciation. Technology risk. Some of the investment could be in low carbon technology, and there could be some uncertainty based on that. So what are the financial implications? There could be loss if you don't find anything, or there could be reduced demand for your products or services if you are still continuing with it. For the market risk, there could be uncertainty about the consumer behavior, which keeps on changing. Also, supply chains which are not in your country, or it could be in some other country which are affected by climate. That could be a risk for the company. So there could be reduced demand and there could be increased costs as well. There could be reputational risk, which could be stigmatization of industry just because it is involved in carbon intensive in the industries. There could be consumer preference changes as well as stakeholder expectations. This would lead in reduced revenue, reduce in demand production, etc. So these are the formula for impact metrics. So the first is the carbon footprint. As you can see, it is based on tons CO2 equivalent per million USD. It is the amount of annual greenhouse gas emission which can be allocated to investors per million US dollars invested in portfolio level. It is the most intuitive carbon metric available at portfolio level. What about carbon intensity? It is also given in ton CO2 equivalent per million US dollar. It is a measure of how carbon efficient the portfolio is in producing revenue to investee companies. It measures carbon efficient portfolio. Now the problem with both of these ratios is that they don't measure climate related risk. These both ratios are based in historical data, and as we have studied, climate risk are foreseeable risk, not the historical risk. The third problem is equity ownership. So as you can see, there is a company's market capitalization, which is the value which is given as the product of market share and the total number of shares. So it is always dependent on the equity, and therefore it is also sensitive to company's share price as well as form of capitalization. TCFD recommends weighted average carbon intensity. They say that you can use it for benchmarking, you can use it for reporting purpose, or you can use it for reduction targets as well. One of the big thing is that it does not rely on equity ownership. As you can see, there is no investment value on market capitalization in it. Also, it is more sensitive to outliers. So if there are outliers, this would be incorporated in it rather than the other way. This metric could also be a proxy for transition related risk. However, this metric only provides a snapshot about the future. This does not provide the outlook for the future, and this needs to be considered while using this metric. So these were the topics that were discussed in this video. I hope you like this. I hope you like this video. Subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment, and we will meet soon.